Hey friends, my name's that's a new record for not having any lights turned on. That's ridiculous. What's up? Greetings, cretins. My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to 5-inch Friday. We are gonna be I'm heartbroken. I am heartbroken from this Cineglide. Patrick came and hung out yesterday, and we were supposed to be both switching our glides over to 7-inch arms that I've been waiting on. So Bob Ruge very kindly sent me. It doesn't make the Cineglide anymore, and doesn't make these 7-inch arms for the Cineglide anymore. So he very but I expressed interest in him. He sent me over the files for it and said, just have them cut. It's all good. So this is going like a year. This is going back about a year or so. Ryan Harrell, my buddy Ryan Harrell, has a CNC that he's been cutting carbon fiber with. So I said, like, hey, Ryan, you have any interest in cutting these? He said, yeah, for sure. Let me just price out the carbon. And I said, yo, I want to do these in 6mm because they're so long. I want them to be a little bit stronger. He said, cool. Priced it out. Sheet of. I also wanted a bunch of 5-inch glide arms. 2 sheets of carbon, 6mm and 5mm. It was like $100 and something. Great. He gets them. Goes to run the 6mm on his little CNC setup, and it just explodes. He'd never cut carbon this thick before, and his CNC just grenades. And then he got super busy, and it took him a while to get it fixed. Eventually, he gets it fixed. He gets them cut. He cut me 3 sets of these 7-inch arms, I believe it was, and bunch of 5-inch arms, and then the insane post office debacle that I've told you guys about happens. But eventually, I get the package, and I've got all these, and I've now got all these. So these are also dead cat arms. These are 7-inch dead cat arms for the Cineglide or for regular glide frames. So yeah, Patrick and I are hanging yesterday. We start swapping arms. I get these current dead cat arms on this Cineglide right now will swing 5.5-inch props with a session mount, but when you put the wide GoPro mount, it will not swing 5.5-inch props. It'll only swing 5-inch props. And so this thing has been set up like this for a while now. This has Brother Hobby Avenger 2507. What KV are these? 1850 KV. 2507 motors are just barely big enough for these super pitchy 5-inch props. These are Gemfan 5052s. Kind of an old school propeller, but some of the most pitchy props that you can get. These motors are just barely big enough for this prop. I don't like it. Doesn't the response time is not there for like really crisp freestyle, but it makes good power, and you can really cover ground with this kind of setup with these motors, with these props. But I was super excited to move this thing over to bigger motors and the bigger arms. So, again, got these arms made, and I snagged a set of Emax 2807 1700 kV motors. Big bastards. Start pulling this thing apart. Last night, swap on these 5/5.5-inch 5mm thick dead cat arms are 5mm thick. These arms are 6mm thick. The normal glide frame, the base plate here, just interfaces with the arms. It doesn't have this little front part here that the Cineglide does. And I didn't think about that. This little front part is how the whole front, the dick nose front thing here on the Cineglide, that's how this mounts. And there's 2 pieces of carbon in here. One of them's 3mm, the other one's 2mm. And so when I put the 6mm thick arms in here, there's now a 1mm gap in here. So initially I was like, at first I was kind of like, I'll just throw a washer in there, it'll be fine. And then I kind of start looking at it, and I realized that like with a washer in there, it's going to make this front a lot weaker in one direction than the other. Probably wouldn't affect like regular flight characteristics, but if I crashed it, I would have to either pick, would it be strong in a crash from the bottom, or would it be strong in a crash from the top? Yeah, not great. But then I kind of start looking around. I'm like, well, Patrick actually had the idea. He's like, you can just probably grab you've got a piece of 1mm thick carbon floating around here somewhere. It'll take forever, but drill it out and saw it out to the right shape. I'm like, yeah, all right, that's a good idea. The plan was to, before I get there, I then took one of those motors. This actually happened after Patrick left, but I went to bolt up one of those motors to these arms, and this mounting pattern, you'll notice these are circular holes, not ovaled holes. These are only 16x16 holes. None of these 28 whatever motors are 16x16. They're all 19x19. And so that was another big fat slap in the face. I spent like 20 minutes looking for the biggest motors that I could possibly find with a 16 by 16 mounting pattern. And it would appear that it's these Brother Hobby Avenger 2507s. There's also a Brother Hobby Avenger 2510, which is super interesting. 2510 is actually more stator volume than a 2807, but 2510, right? 10, 20, 30, 3 to 1. 2510, that's only 2.5 to 1 ratio of width to height. So that's a motor that potentially is going to get too hot, which I don't love that idea, but like maybe I can just motor limit it and then it'll be fine. The 2510 will definitely give me the power that I want for 7-inch props. But yeah, I'm kind of worried about it getting too hot. And then I realized that, so the plan was to put this on 04. I had an 04 air unit and camera ready to go for this. And this was going to be like the big, nasty live broadcast. This build with 7-inch arms is basically me trying to emulate God damn it. Justin Skinner's 7-inch big motor, big speed live broadcast rally car, rally cross, motorsport drift chasing build that flies amazing, and it gets him the efficiency that he wants and the speed and the cruising, and it's really cool. And that was kind of the thought process here, but with the bolt pattern being wrong on the arms, for anything other than these 2507s, which aren't quite enough motor, or 2510s, which might get too hot, and then the body problems, and then the nail in the coffin was the camera cage up here will not fit an 04 camera. The only way that I'd be able to get an 04 camera in here would be literally to double-sided tape it. I would have to put double-sided tape on the left and right of the carbon fiber vertical plates and then just smash them together. And then, you know, God knows what the up tilt is. The up tilt's not adjustable. On a rig like this for live broadcast stuff, you really want the camera tilt to be up changeable so that you can fly it slow with low up tilt or crank the up tilt up. And so, like, all three of these things together, by this point, like, I'd put the 7-inch arms on it. Patrick was putting his set of 7-inch arms on a regular glide frame, which was totally fine. And so we're both just sitting here like, Jesus Christ, these are so big. We had a great time last night. But with all of those problems together, after he left, I took the 7-inch arms back off, and I put these 5.5-inch / 5-inch arms back on. And what I realized is that, this front camera cage is designed for the Vista. The O3 has the same mounting pattern as the Vista. And so what I kind of decided is that this is going to be a 5-inch or 5.5-inch without this build with O3. And then maybe at some point down the road, I'll do a 7-inch setup with 04. But yeah, this is, I can't, I don't want to leave this. I'm trying to move away from the Vistas because they're nowhere near as good in terms of like raw image quality than the 03 and the 04. But also the biggest pain in the ass for me with the Vistas is that I'm trying to move away from the old school DJI goggles. Yes, the new some of the newer goggles will kind of work with the Vista, but it's a total pain in the ass. It's so much easier to be on 03 and 04 and connect. It's still kind of a pain in the ass. You have to rebind every single time you want to switch between 03 and 04, but it's a lot less of a pain in the ass than trying to get the Vistas to connect to. I think you have to run a specific version of the firmware in the goggles. I forget. I dealt with it a month or two ago, and I just remember it being a pain in the ass with the Vistas. So, and the other thing is, for the live broadcast stuff, the Vistas, I don't think I can use the Cosmo streamer setup for O3 and O4 with the Vistas. Maybe I can, but even if I can, the image quality coming out of the Vistas is nowhere near the O3 and the O4. And so, yeah, I'm going away from the Vistas. I'm going to the O3 and the O4 setup. And this rig is going to get O3 today. Massive shout out to McConnell Studios. I'm taking this O3 unit out of a Cineglide that he sent me and changing a bunch of stuff. Cinesplore. I'm actually taking his Cinesplore that he'd sent me a while ago, and I'm going to put O4 onto it, and it's going to be a non-GoPro. I mean, I could always slap a GoPro on top, but it's going to be a specific Cinewoop with O4. Like, as light, I'm going to build it as light as possible. It's on the Cinesplore V1 frame, which is super lightweight, and I'm kind of excited about that. That'll be pretty neat. Just to have like an ultra lightweight Cinesplore with O4 on it. So that'll be pretty cool. That's where the O4 that I was going to put into this is going. So hopefully next week I can get that build going, throw it together. Set of like 2104s, or maybe I'll do those really lightweight 2004 Brother Hobby VY motors. And yeah, that'll be pretty slick. But today we're going to be screwing around with the Cineglide, and I'm just basically swapping the Vista out and swapping the O3 in. I really hope that the O3 is going to fit in the camera cage. That's one of the first things that we're going to do is pull this camera cage apart, push the O3 camera up in there, and yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get up tilt. This camera cage is kind of tight with this bottom plate. So there's a chance that I will waste another couple hours tonight trying to get this figured out here. But hopefully not. Last night was a huge waste. I spent all that time pulling this thing apart, and then at the end of all of it, I literally put it exactly back to the way it was, which is just super frustrating. But yeah, some stuff you got to learn the hard way, and that was my night last night. And so yeah, that's the plan. 5-inch Friday is back. I'm going to start doing more 5-inch Fridays because I got to get these 5-inch rigs put back together. I got a bunch of 5-inch setups that like have props removed right now, which means that there's something going on with them. So I need to get those things back up. I think I only have, I guess I have 3. I have 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 working 5-inch rigs right now. But only the one over here is an actual freestyle rig. This is like a cinematic 40-degree up tilt rig. This is a big fat bing bong rig. So, yeah, that's the deal. There's also a chance that this build over here, this is the Razorback, there's a chance that that will get pulled apart for these 7-inch arms. I forgot to mention that. These 7-inch arms, I'm going to do exactly what Patrick did, and I'm going to do a regular glide with these 7-inch arms. I have to use these. I have to know what the 7-inch world is like. And I don't know which direction to go yet. It's going to be either 2507 motors with 7-inch biblades or 2510 motors with 7-inch tri-blades. I'm not totally sure. If any of you can find 16 by 16 bolt pattern motors bigger than 2507 or 2510, definitely let me know. I think there's a set of Racer Star like 2608, which is a really cool, I love that size, but there isn't a shot in hell that I'm going to put Racer Star motors onto a build like this. So unfortunately, they're sort of out. But yeah, if you guys know of any 26, 27, 28, 07-ish motors with a 16x16 pattern, let me know. But fair warning, I don't think you're going to find them. They seem to have gone to the 19x19 pattern on all 28 stator width motors, which makes sense. I mean, I totally understand that. And it's probably a really good idea for them to have done that. I'm sure they didn't. I'm sure they had good reason to do that. It's strength, you know. With those bigger motors, things start to get really, really heavy. In the chat, Benny Bravo was first. Stick Flick FPV was second. Tamava, Uriel, Alleycat, Frosty, Fizz PV rather, Juicy FPV, Cole Powers, Sleepy FPV, Benny Bravo again. Dave S, Hockey Rounds, Kevin, Cole Powers, Dave S, Chris Mel, Ram Donko, Andrew Taylor, Frank Nicholas, Chaser FPV, Alleycat, Sleepy FPV again, Juicy Fizz, Rancher Rob, Cran 33. What's up, friends? Hold on, I need to get. Oh no, where's my water? Unless I left it upstairs. That sucks. I'm kind of dying. Hold on. Can you bring me my water bottle? All right. I don't like to bother other people in this house when I'm working, but if I don't have water, I might actually die. If you want to talk to me in the chat, all you got to do is type CiottiFPV. If you want to support me so that I can keep doing this full time, head on over to CiottiFPV.com and click as many buttons as you can. Click this one to join me on Patreon. This is where all the cool kids hang out. It's $3 a month. You're going to get way more knowledge than $3 a month should get you. Definitely join the Patreon. It is the way to help me out, and you're going to get a ton of benefits. Etsy has a bunch of stickers and fun hardware, even like some full builds coming. Fiverr, you can work one-on-one with me. We book time, and then you buy a half an hour or an hour of my time. I can work through a bunch of stuff like flight instruction, teaching you how to tune, and the build planning. But if you just have a whole bunch of questions, you know, it's your time. You can spend it with me however you'd like. Teespring has some really fun shirts and other apparel. PayPal if you want to do a super chat to support me, but you don't want YouTube to take 30%. Link to my Discord. With your Patreon membership, you're also going to get full access to Discord, so even more good stuff over there. Searchable live stream transcripts. You can literally search for individual words that I've used previously in live streams and get some results. Thanks to Craig for that. Whole bunch of affiliate links. Change your bookmarks to affiliate links, yo. Amazon, Get FPV, Pyrodrone, Race Day Quads, Newbie Drone, Weebly, Beta FPV, FPV Cycle, Hisingi, Oh My God, Brain 3D, HD0, Fly, William X, Banggood Camera Butter, and AliExpress. That's how you support me, friends. If you keep doing it, I'll keep doing this, and we can keep doing it together. We talk some shit, don't we? In the chat, Benny Bravo says, hey, Cole Powers says, here's to not getting stuck on somebody's balcony. Oh, God. Did you get... Oh, yeah, the flight footage. Hey, the flight footage at the beginning of the stream was the 1.6-inch 2S 04 build that I almost got stuck on two people's balconies, actually. FizzPV says, would love to know what bits he used. What bits I used for what? That build? Let me know. Ramdonko says, 5S capacitor whoop. Just poking. How you doing? What's a 5S capacitor whoop? Rancher Rob says, if you buy an 04 or 03 camera, do you have to have DJI goggles? Yes. DJI is a completely closed ecosystem. Yeah. You need goggles for 03 and 04. Realistically, you need goggles 2, goggles Integra, or goggles 3. You can kind of make the old school DJI goggles work with the 03 system, but it's it's a pain in the ass. Again, like I was saying earlier, like you have to run a very specific version of the firmware, and it's just, and then like O4 won't work with it to my knowledge. So yeah, but DJI is a completely closed ecosystem. The best thing for you to do, it sounds like you're just starting to kind of learn about the DJI stuff. If you do a quick Google search for like DJI compatibility chart FPV, there's a really nice, is this it? Ooh, this isn't the one that no, this doesn't have O4 on it. Ooh, is this the one? This might be the one. Hey, this is the one. This is the one. I'm going to put this link in chat. This is over on DRK store. Matter of fact, copy image address. I'm going to put this into general nonsense over on my Discord. It's free to join my Discord. Just go to CiottiFPV.com, hit the Discord link. That'll get you onto my Discord. In general nonsense, which is one of the text channels open to everyone, I just put the link to this. This is important because you can very easily get the wrong set of goggles or the wrong controller. Although I really don't recommend that you use any of these DJI transmitters. Just use DJI goggles and air units. And as you can see here, the DJI O4 air unit is compatible with everything other than the old school goggles. DJI's naming convention is about as dumb as it could possibly get. This here says DJI FPV goggles V2. These Ant-Man looking giant goggles that I lovingly call the DJI helmet. These are the DJI FPV goggles. There was a version 1 and then there was a version 2. They look exactly the same, and they are like the old school DJI goggles that really, I mean, it works with O3 sort of, but it's really meant for the Vistas, the old school DJI stuff. The rest, so you've got DJI FPV goggles V2. Well, then you have DJI goggles 2. It's just so dumb. But like what you want to think about is that this is DJI goggles 1 V2. There was also DJI goggles 1 V1, but these giant things are DJI goggles 1. And then you've got goggles 2. The goggles Integra are basically the same thing as the goggles 2 with some sort of cosmetic changes, and there's a built-in battery in the back and shit like that. But the goggles 2 and the goggles Integra are kind of the same thing. And then there's goggles 3 and goggles N3. Super confusing, horrible naming convention. But welcome to FPV. Everything is confusing. Everyone wants to pull their hair out all the time. And then in terms of like the compatibility, the DJI FPV air unit, this is what most of us call the Vista. And then you've got the O3 air unit, which is actually like, so this DJI FPV air unit or the Vista, this is like version 1. And then just unbelievably, they skipped O2 and they went directly to O3 just, to make all of us want to die. And then they went to O4. And so like the O4 is the current one. These over here, these are bind and fly DJI drones. We kind of consider these to be FPV, but like true FPV is DIY, not this. These are incredible drones, these four. But yeah. FPV to me is do-it-yourself, home-built, not like just DJI stuff. So there you go. There's a quick here. There's my quick attempt at making the DJI product lineup a little bit less awful to try to understand. It's really insane. For a company that is so good at making FPV simple and like actually doable for normal human beings, whoever's handling their naming conventions should be taken outside and beaten with a rubber hose. Cran33 says, going for my first flight tomorrow. Any go-to tips? None whatsoever. For your first like year, just fly as much as you possibly can. You're going to make a million mistakes. Those mistakes are going to be the things that those are going to be your opportunities to learn the absolute most. You're going to break some stuff. You might even lose some stuff. It's FPV, baby. You're in it, man. Your first year is just the meat grinder, and if you survive that meat grinder, then it's absolutely magic. But yeah, your first 6 months to a year for most people tend to be pretty brutal. Every month that goes past, FPV gets a little bit less brutal, so it's way different than it was 9-10 years ago when I got started. But still, FPV is super challenging, super disappointing. But those of us that are in this world, we're a pretty unique group of people that were willing to mash through all that bullshit. And so, yeah, you're kind of in the crucible now. Now it's you might not make it. Most people don't. Most people get a few months in and they're just like, yo, this is ridiculous. Like, this is not worth it. And they'll kind of bail. There's not a thing that I can say or do to help you get through that other than to like kind of warn you about it so that it's not a surprise, right? Like when I was getting started into this, there was nobody to kind of explain that. And so, you know, a few weeks in, it was like, this is insane. It must just be me. Nobody would continue to do this if it were this bad. It must just be me. Maybe I can't do this. And so hopefully, like, if you know that it's not just you and that it's all of us and that it's insane, hopefully you'll stick with it, because it is worth it. Because you get to fly, you get to take your eyeballs and move them around in full three-dimensional space, and you can't do that with anything else. But it's rough. It's rough. So you just do it. You just put your head down. You smash through it. You lose some shit. You break some shit. You waste some money. And maybe you make it through. And if you make it through, year 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 are awesome. Tamava says, have you bought any O4 lights recently? And if you have, was there any difference on them versus the earlier ones you grabbed? I have not. I bought 3 of them real early on, and one of them has broken, and I still need to get off my ass and get it sent in for repair. But yeah, I haven't bought any of the new ones. If you're thinking about buying O4 right now, wait. That's all I'm going to say. Benny Bravo says, that's kind of all I know, too. All I really know is, like, just hold on. Benny Bravo says, what's a good 2S AIO? I have an entire live stream about... I mean, it depends. If it's 2S for Toothpick, if it's 2S for Tiny Whoop. If it's 2S for Tiny Whoop, come to my channel, click the little magnifying glass here, and search for 2S AIO. I think that'll find it. Yep. This live stream, best AIO for DJI O2 Lite 2S 75mm build. So if that's the build that you're looking at doing, this is the live stream for you. I looked at all of the ones that are available, and we talked about them. It's not a quick conversation. There's not one that like stands out so much that you have to have it. So check that live stream. Really, Canon? Dude, you've been doing so good lately, webcam utility. It's been like 2 streams in a row where you didn't shit your pants like this. Let's just let this be a one-time thing. What do you say? Come on. Oh, shit. I was impatient. There we go. There it is. Cool. FizzPV says, CNC bits for the carbon. Have a CNC looking at carbon for several things. You have a CNC? That's rad. Boondock Striker says, I have a tiny whoop that the elrs antenna fell off. I replaced it with copper wire, 31.5 millimeters. It flies for a while, then the motors lose power and it lands no matter how high I throttle. Sounds like the AIO is blown up. Did that behavior start when the ELRS antenna fell off? Check and make sure that when you were replacing it with the copper wire that you didn't that you don't have like a solder ball somewhere. Also make sure that if that, so ELRS is receiving, which, like, a receiver doesn't necessarily need an antenna to stay cool. If it was, I mean, ELRS does transmit a little bit of telemetry, but not enough. Like on the video side of things, if you don't have a video antenna on an AIO, that AIO will get way too hot and overheat and exhibit the behavior that you're talking about here. That should not be the case on the receiver side, but you might as well make sure that the antenna that you soldered on there is actually soldered to the through. It's probably a through hole. Just double check it. Make sure that it's actually got a good connection. You'll kind of know, because without the antenna, the link quality will be abysmal. With the antenna, it'll be fine. But yeah, it sounds like the AIO is on its way out. There's really nothing you can kind of do to fix it. Like, I'm gonna take a stab here and maybe that when the ELRS antenna fell off, you smashed into something really hard. When that happened, you might have hurt one of the FETs or something else on there, and that's why it's getting super hot and exhibiting that weird behavior. With AIOs, like, they either work or they don't. When they don't work anymore, you can either keep struggling with them or throw them in the river and get a replacement. Like, there's not, unless you went into beta flight and started fucking around with a bunch of stuff, right? Like, the ones and zeros didn't, like, fall out when you hit the tree or brick wall or whatever it may be. So it's just broken, or, like, it's we have this weird, like, God complex that we can actually fix this stuff. And in most cases we can't. In most cases, it's replace. It's not repair, it's replace. Again, unless, like, you were screwing around with something and you changed something weird in, like, the VTX table or something like that and it's getting too hot. Or, like, you were messing around with the ESC firmware or something weird like that, but it doesn't sound like it. So, yeah, it sounds a lot like you need to replace that AIO, unfortunately. Stickflick FPV says, what's your thoughts on the NX69 Whoop battery connector? Here it's supposed to have more output power than the A30. Yeah, so Nbd Drone is supposedly doing a new tiny Whoop battery connector that will be backwards compatible with PH 2.0, which is really cool for those of you that saved your Nitro Nectar Gold PH 2.0 batteries and didn't get all antsy and put them on your Etsy store and sell them for practically nothing. I don't know if the new battery connector... So, you've got this new NX69 battery connector on the quad side. I don't know if that plugging into a PH 2.0 is going to give you any better performance. That would be that'd be pretty cool if it did, but I have a funny feeling that it won't. Don't quote me. I know nothing about this connector other than what Kelvin said in Joshua Bardwell's review of the Hummingbird V4. My hunch is that the PH 2.0 on the battery side will work with the NX69, but you won't get the lower resistance of, like, BT 2.0 or that connector when you pair it with another NX69 connector on a battery, right? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but very cool that it's a backwards compatible connector. That's super interesting. I believe BT 2.0 was designed in a way that it would not be the bottleneck. The wires to the flight controller, the wires to the motors, those I think are more of a bottleneck than the actual BT 2.0 connector. So it's great that the NX69 is supposedly going to have less resistance than the BT 2.0, but I have a feeling that that won't actually affect anything. It won't hold anything back, and like you might as well, if you're going to make a new connector, you might as well try to exceed the performance of the previous connector. But yeah, a lot of questions about that connector. Really cool that it's backwards compatible for folks that have a ton of PH 2.0 batteries floating around. But yeah, who the hell knows if it'll allow you to actually use, if it doesn't give you lower resistance than BT 2.0 when you use it with the old PH 2.0 connectors, then unless it does improve the performance, there's kind of no reason for it other than, I mean, it's great for newbie drone because I have a feeling that they have 100,000 Nitro Nectar Gold batteries with PH 2.0 connectors on them. And so perfect for them and great that it exists. But for those of us that have already gone BT 2.0, I don't think we're going to need to do anything. Again, all guesses. These are all me taking guesses. I have not talked to Kelvin about that connector. I did not know that connector existed until a day or two ago. Alley Cat says, I'm thinking of getting the tanQ S-XR4 for long range. Any thoughts? I'm not a very big fan of Rotor Riot frames. I don't know who does the frame designs for them, but their frames just have never struck me as being all that well thought out or engineered. Like, their frames tend to have like just slabs of carbon fiber in areas that you could very easily cut that carbon fiber out with zero impact on strength. And their position has always been that they like the extra weight and that they want the extra weight. And that is just insane to me. That is completely opposite of every single person that's ever flown anything ever. Like, the entire world of aeronautics, anything that flies, like, rule one is, like, make it as light as possible. If you're going to make it stronger, that's one thing. I'm all about making it stronger in some cases. But just adding weight for the sake of adding weight that doesn't add strength, that is absolute and utter madness. Mainly because if you want to add weight, put a bigger battery on it. It's going to perform better and you're going to fly for longer. It is just ridiculous to have extra weight in parts of the thing that don't make it perform better. Like, and so yeah, I don't get it. I really don't get it. I've tried a number of different Rotor Riot frames in the past, and I've been very disappointed. In like some livability stuff, in to be honest, in some strength stuff. They've especially for how big and heavy they are, they haven't been all that they haven't been nearly as strong as they should be for being that heavy. I think they've figured that out. I think their current frames are a lot stronger than the older ones. But they're still just insanely heavy, and for not really any reason from what I can see. So, I don't know. To me, the Rotor Riot builds and frames are for folks that are like massive Rotor Riot fans. And if you're a fan of Rotor Riot and then you have one of their builds, that's gonna feel awesome. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you're a huge Rotor Riot fan, their frames are pretty good. But like, if you don't have that, if you're not like a diehard Rotor Riot fan buying it to have, like, you know, your little piece of Rotor Riot, there are a load of other frames that are, in most people's opinions, much better designed, much better thought out, much better engineered. So yeah, those are my thoughts. YouTube did the thing, scrolling back up to try to find my place. Cole Power says, I think O2 was Occusync 2 from stuff like Magic/Mini 2. O1 would probably be stuff like the OG Phantom. Good call. Occusync 2 is a real thing. Yeah. They still should not have skipped O2. Sporny says O2 would get copyright claimed for sure. What's that in reference to? I don't know what that's in reference to. Yeah, it's still insane. Their naming convention is not to mention that, like, never mind. Never mind. What I was about to say is that the fact that the O4 air unit is kind of meant for the Goggles 3, dude, come on. Like, if you're gonna skip O2, then skip O2. You know, like it's DJI Goggles V1, DJI Goggles V2, Goggles 3, Goggles 4, Goggles 5. Don't go 1 V2, 2. What? Who was like, I know. Like, the Goggles 2 were made for the Air Unit 03. Don't call them Goggles 2, you lunatics! Maybe it's just me. I'm sure it's just me. Rodney Dangerfield rolls his eyes in Caddyshack at one point. And it's like the hardest. That's my impersonation of it. It's just like the hard. I forget what he. Oh God, what does he say? Is it when he's in the? I think it's when he's in the. When he's buying the stuff. When he's buying a bunch of golf stuff. It is that one of the other customers has a terribly ugly shirt or pants on, and he's saying to somebody, he's like, oh, I forget what he says, but he's like, that shirt would only look good at a corpse though. And then like he's pointing at a shirt on the rack, and then there's somebody standing like 5 feet to the left or whatever wearing that shirt, and he goes, oh, but it looks good on you though. And he just does this like huge eye roll, and he closes his eyes really big before. It's just perfect. It's the most perfect eye roll of all time. So that's what I'm going for there. Rodney Dangerfield. What a ridiculous name. Eye roll Caddy Shack. Let's see how insane the internet is. Of course it just immediately finds it. Let's turn off closed captioning. Oh, it's Smales Judge. Oh, it's the hat. It's not the shirt, it's the hat. It's the fucking it's the hat. Oh, it looks good on you though. Oh my God, hold on, here it is. A box of those balls. Give me some of them naked lady tees. Oh, there it is. There it is. Oh, this is the worst looking hat I ever saw. When you buy a hat like this, I bet you get a free bowl of soup. Here it is. I can only show you that this is a tiny little bit. Oh, looks good on you, though. There it is. There it is. Ah! He turns his head. I didn't realize that he turns his head. All right. I gotta refine my mega eye roll. Look at Smales. What a shit. That's Smales. It's Judge. Whatever. Meet my friend Wang. I gotta rewatch this, man. Maybe I'll make Florence watch Caddyshack. Where to watch Caddyshack? Top 10 comedies of all time. Unquestionably. Of course it's on fucking Hulu. You ass bags. Damn it. All right. Well, I was thinking about pausing Netflix and then doing another month of Hulu. Maybe I'll do that. Oh my God, it's May 30th. Balls. We're right in the middle of Dexter, so it would have to be July. Oh well, whatever. Wait a second. I might have Caddyshack on DVD. Oh, I think I do. Type Caddyshack in chat if you want me to run upstairs real quick and see if I have Caddyshack on DVD, and then bring that DVD down and show you guys the physical media that is Caddyshack. I don't care if you want me to or not. I'm going to go do it. Hold on. Let me give you something to watch. Here, hold on. I got to know. Here's flying that 2S 1. Here's killing the 04 in that 1.6 inch rig. Here's how I killed it. Be right back. I got to know. And I got to show you guys my DVD collection. Although I'm just going to show you the one. Be right back. Hold on. Seriously, one of the best comedies of all time. Oh, I do have it. Goddamn right I have it. You are goddamn right I have it. You better goddamn well believe I have it. So yeah, that was the crash that killed the 04 air unit. That was a pretty hard hit, in fairness. There it is, yo. And it's in the old school DVD cases with the cardboard. There it is, man. Ooh. Yeah, it's on. Oh my God, just perfection, absolute and utter perfection. I'll be interested to see if Florence hates it or not. 99 minutes. And it's in color. Oh, that's important. 99 minutes. I'm looking for the copyright. 1980! Holy shit. Really? This movie's older than me? Just by a year, but good lord. Wow. Yeah, it's on. We are Caddyshack-ing either tonight or this weekend. Practical says DJI O2 exists. Ocusync 2, that was the original air unit Lite / Vista. Ocusync 1 never existed for FPV. Oh, so that means that the Vistas are actually kind of O2, I think. I think that's what that means. Uriel says, we are the best. We keep going. Due to my sickness, I got to crash. Sorry, I'm farting. Oh, God. Penny Bravo says, thanks, man. Uriel says, can we build a drone with GPS that carries a Dremel so we can use it as a CNC? No. FizzPV says, just no. I have a smaller one at my house and access to a 5 foot by 10 foot. Holy hell. With about 1.5 feet of Z-axis. That's insane. Sporny says, any thoughts on the Nbd Cockroach 82? From what I understand, from what Nbd told me, they sent me a couple of those Cockroach 82 frames, and I just ended up doing giveaway. I put them into my first Monday of every month giveaways because they included some adhesive foam, and they said that the frame rattles really bad if you don't use that foam. But then if you run that foam around the ducts, the frame stops rattling. And they told me that, and I went, okay. And then I put all the frames into giveaways. so yeah. I don't know. Curtis Hayes says, just got my Omni Fixo, should really help with my soldering and essential tremors. Omni Fixo for life, man. You're going to love it. FPV says, I can see it being basically unnoticeably better, kind of like the gold PH2 versus standard one. I'm pretty sure that it will be at least as good as BT 2.0. I mean, if they're saying that it's going to be better than BT 2.0, then it has to at least be as good as BT 2.0. Like, Newbie Drone, they don't always get everything right, but they're not liars. They're not just going to lie and be like, you know. So I'm sure it'll be good, but whether it makes any sense to use it, that's a whole different story, right? Juicy FPV says, I have 3 04 lights that sometimes once in a while screen goes black for a second while it's in the air. It happens every so often with 3 different builds. Has this happened to you? That has not happened to me. That is super creepy that you're getting that on 3 different builds. Apparently, DJI is fixing all of the 04s that you send to them for free, though. So maybe send all 3 of those in. Or actually, maybe just send one of those in and see if the one that comes back doesn't do it anymore, and then send the other 2 in. Dave S. says, whoop nuts are the only extra weight worth having. What are whoop nuts? Frank Nicholas says, the O numbers are for the Ocusync numbers, nothing specific to FPV. That makes sense. Dronesen says, it's marketing to keep people buying. What, the ridiculous naming convention? How does that work? Unless it's trying to confuse people so that they buy the wrong thing and then get stuck with it. Ramdonko says, aiming for that frame build. What? What's that mean? Dave S says, where did Integra come from? God only knows. Frank Douglas says, goggle versions have nothing to do with the Ocusync version. Oh, yeah, okay. That makes sense. So that would explain why the goggle numbers are different than the VTX numbers. But, like, come on. Right? Like, that, to me, that is like a huge, I don't know if that's like a huge marketing problem. That's just insane, man. Like, having your product line not be this confusing is really, like, what are you doing? That's just insane. CMYK says, what's up? Raze says, it makes sense in China, bro. No, I'm sure it doesn't make sense there either. Sporny says, O2 is a mobile/internet service provider, at least in Europe. Is it really? That's wild. Dave S says, graphics card naming conventions are worse, I'd have to argue. Are they really? Give me an example of the worst graphics card naming convention faux pas. CMYK rightly says USB naming standards are also insane. Yeah, they are. They really are. B-Mud Skipper says, listening to this as I fly my Meteor 75 Pro 2S in the yard, how many batteries do you find you need to cycle while charging to be able to fly all day? I find about 10 to 15. It depends on your charging setup, right? It depends on how many you can charge at a time and how high you can push the amps on whatever your charging setup is. But yeah, at least 8. Like if you want to continuously fly, to me, like the 8 batteries is a really good spot. with Tiny Whoops, I think you might want to do 12 batteries because then you can have 6 on the charger at any given time. But yeah, it depends mainly on the charger. Sporny says, interesting, thanks. You're certainly welcome. Mike Hunt says... I always dreamed of the day that I would get to say Mike Hunt on a live stream. And dude, why is it not Mike Hunt 69? Come on, missed opportunity. I'm assuming you were born in 79. Mike Hunt says physical media. Yeah, I'm actually a massive fan of physical media. I worked for a company called Disc Makers in New Jersey for 7 or 8 years in my 20s. Best job I've ever had. Family-owned company. They'd been around for over 60 years. They started making vinyl. Then they moved to cassettes. Then they moved to CDs. Then to DVDs. Then to cloud stuff when I was there. And I think they're still around. They when I was working there in like 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, is when Napster and all of the cloud-based shit came out, and it just hammered the shit out of the company. We went from over 600 employees to less than 400 in like the span of about a year, I think. Luckily, it then kind of leveled out. But man, I mean, with DVDs and CDs, like we were cooking. When I first started working there, it was awesome. There was lots of business to go around. And I just became a huge fan of like physical media while I was working there. I was in, initially I was just kind of picking up the phones, and then I weaseled my way into their sales department. I was an assistant sales guy at first, and they had me give people tours. Like when artists would come in to pick up their product, they would a lot of times want like a tour, because we did everything in-house. Like we had an in-house graphic design team, we had large format printers in-house, we had printing presses in-house, we had the CD press, the CD and DVD pressing machines in-house, everything, mastering in-house. We like, one of our things was that when you brought your project to us, it would not leave the building. No one part of it would leave the building, which for some of the bigger, fancier artists, that was actually a really good thing, so that like nobody would steal their shit and pirate it and all that nonsense. But it also gave us a lot of control over like the quality beginning to end, right? And it was just so, man, it was, and like I really fell in love with like the process of making the stampers and the way that the machines ran, and just, it was really, really cool. I wish that I'd been there when they were doing vinyl. That would have been really cool. But I was way late for that. But yeah, it's funny, that job ruined every other job that I had after that, because it was so cool. Unfortunately, with all of those layoffs, things got not so cool, and they were family owned by the Ballin family, and Morris Ballin was getting really old, and his kids didn't want to keep it going, so he ended up selling it to, and then there were shareholders involved, and that's what really fucked everything up. It went from, a family-owned business where quality mattered and the employees mattered and the customer mattered, to a publicly held company where anybody making any of the decisions cared about was making money, and the quality went to hell. We started getting treated like shit. The customers started getting treated like shit, and it was, oh man, that was really tough. I only lasted about a year when that happened, because, and like, yeah, it was such a great example of how shitty capitalism can be, and typically is. And it was tough, man. It was, but like what what's really interesting is like what was hard about it is that it was so good, and then it was only like this good afterwards. Like most companies, you come in and they're like this good, and then like maybe it does this, but like for so many of us there, we were like, what the fuck, like it was just so hard for it to have been so good, and then to just watch it all melt away because these greedy fucks just wanted more and more and more and more and more money and just kept stomping all over everyone. And but that's America, That's what we stand for. There's a little inside baseball for you. Uriel says he nows Ron Jeremiah. Cold Power says, can I throw Wi-Fi into the insane naming bonanza? 802.11 BAGNACX. What the actual fuck? Kevin Smith says, I assume you have a way to play that DVD other than a computer. I actually don't have any computers left with disk drives. I think I do in the garage. I think I have a laptop in the garage that still has a disk drive. One of the things I love about consoles, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, for example, is that they still have disk drives in them. And I will continue to buy consoles. I think with the PS5 you can buy it with or without the disk drive. I might be wrong about that, but I think you might be able to. If there's ever that option, I will always buy a console with a disk drive in it for moments like these. Because I still have 20 or 30 DVDs and probably about the same. I probably still have 20 or 30 CDs. And we've got a PS4 upstairs that... You know what? I need to get that PS4 hooked up to the receiver. I don't currently have it hooked up to the receiver. I got to do that one of these days. And then the PS5 down here, which is hooked up to the receiver. So yeah, I will. Always having the ability to play physical media is something that's important to me, and physical media is important to me. One of the coolest things about vinyl is you can fucking play it with an actual needle. Right? Like, if you protect a record, 200 years from now, someone will be able to spin it and put a thing on it to make it make noises. You're not going to be able to do... Like, I'm not going to be able to take my fucking iPhone 200 years from now and get the music off of it or turn it on or do it. You know what I mean? Physical media is I think, really important for, like, historical... And a lot of people think this way. I'm just stealing this idea from others. But I agree. I agree with this idea that obviously there's a lot of waste in physical media, right? Like when I worked at disc makers, we were in the business of buying barrels of plastic nurdles. And, we were buying oil, a petroleum product. And it was really expensive. And then we were sending them out into the world, and people would throw them all over the place. And they're plastic waste that won't go away for 11 billion years. So like, yeah, physical media has its negatives, but like in the grand scheme of things, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be that bad of a waste. And it's art, right? Like physical media preserves art. It preserves our history, and I think that's incredibly important. Andrew Taylor says, that job sounds awesome. If I had the room, I'd love to collect DVDs and VHS movies. Just have a little collection, man. Just keep your collection to like 20. To me, like 20 or 30 is the right number, because that really makes you think about, like, is this my favorite? Is this a top 20 movie for me? Is this a top 20 CD for me? I'm going to discmakers.com. What's their website still? They keep the same logo as ever. Wow, this website looks very similar. So here's something super interesting about physical media, right? For a long time. So, Disc Makers is doing this. Napster, LimeWire, all that shit, we do this. What was super interesting is that it then did this, and it did this forever. what's really cool about physical media is that, like, if you're a musician and like you're coming up, one of the ways to show people how good you are and how professional you are is to have physical media. Any asshole can have a Spotify page and an Instagram and a Facebook where they post their music. And if it's really, really good, maybe people will find out about it and it'll go viral, all that nonsense, right? But like, if you go to a show, if you're a musician and you go and you play a show and you don't have any physical media or any merch or anything like that, you don't look nearly as professional. You know what I mean? So physical media has that really cool thing that it does, and that's why disc makers still exist. That's why they're still... Ow, that's really cheap though. First of all, we never used to go down to quantities this low. Our minimum quantity used to be 1,000, and it was basically like the pricing started at about $1,000. They must be burnt. These can't be pressed. You can't press CDs at this low. I mean, you used to not be able to, at least. I don't know if the technology's changed, but yeah, this is Disc Makers. Disc Makers was the biggest independent CD and DVD manufacturer in the world for many, 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 many years. So our bread and butter was digipacks and jewel cases, mainly jewel cases, but digipacks were pretty slick because it was a little bit less plastic. Man, they're really pushing this 100 quantity. We used to really push the 1,000 quantity, and then you'd save like $100 if you went down to 500, and then you would save like another $100 if you went down to 300. But 300 was the absolute minimum because it's all set up. You'd make the stamper, you'd make the screens for all the screen printing, and then you set these giant machines up to actually manufacture. You turn the machine on, it would blast through 1,000 of them in like an hour. And so, like, if you're only doing 500, it's going to take a half an hour. We can only discount it by that half an hour. It's still going to take all the time to set up the machine, all the resources, all that nonsense. Yeah, there was our audio lab. Oh my God, he's still there. I don't know if he's still there, but this is Brian Lipsky. Yeah, I was really good friends with all the mastering guys because I was fascinated by them, and they had a bunch of Paradigm speakers in the mastering lab. So I would I would sneak back there and hang out with those guys all the time. Damn. Yeah, the sound lab at Disc Makers, they were also really good. They were really good mastering engineers. They didn't do any mixing, just mastering. Wow, that's a blast from the past. Shit, that was, yeah, I left there like 2008, 2009, around there. Uriel says, when employees get lost, the bastards stay, and then it's of. Render says, happy Friday. FizzPV says, Spaceballs. I don't find Spaceballs to be nearly as funny as Caddyshack. Don't get me wrong, Spaceballs is funny, but Spaceballs is a little bit too... it's a little too Monty Python. When I was really young, I thought Monty Python was hysterical. As I got older, it became a little bit less funny. Like, a little bit too kind of on the nose, a little bit too sort of corny. I hate to say that, but, like, that's just sort of the word for it. And then, like, Spaceballs kind of falls in that same thing, where it's just... It's still funny as hell, don't get me wrong. But, like, it's just... Whereas, like, Caddyshack, it doesn't have, like, any of that corniness to me for whatever reason. But that's... I think that's a pretty... I think that's a pretty individualistic thing. I think it also has a lot to do with how many times you've seen a movie. And I've seen Caddyshack a lot. But I've seen Spaceballs a lot as well. Yurio says, the scratch on records is a great tonk, tonk, tonk. Ram Donko says, warped thin vinyl. I like cassettes / shame about mini disc. Do you guys know mini disc is where MP3 came from? MP3 was the format that mini discs were, was the format on mini discs. Cold Power says, you can probably find a USB disc drive, DVD, and Blu-ray. And if you can't find that, you can make one with a USB host controller. That's interesting. And a 5.25-inch desktop drive. That's ridiculous. Euro says, are you Interest in kilo prices for records. What's that mean? Ramdanko says vinyl can be cut 8 millimeters deep now to preserve CiottiFPV and all. Yeah, it's funny. I grew up in a house where my dad had a just huge vinyl collection. A lot of classical music, which I really wasn't into as a kid. But yeah, my dad had an amazing stereo up in our living room and a huge vinyl collection. And but I grew up in cassette and CD times, and so I was never interested in vinyl at all. And then at 30-something years old, when vinyl kind of started coming back and it became like a cool thing, I was like, oh. And all of a sudden it was like, ooh, this has this incredible nostalgia for me because, you know, my dad had like that, and I would see him like cleaning records and flipping them and doing all that nonsense. And so I got a little bit into vinyl in my like late 30s, and I'm not nearly, there was a little bit where I was kind of into it, a little bit more than a normal human being would. And then pretty quickly, it's funny, like talking to my dad about vinyl, it's super funny because like, you know, he grew up where it was the only thing. And his when I was growing up, his stance on it was always that like it's a pain in the ass. Like it's a pain in the ass to live with. It's a pain in the ass to keep clean. You got to flip the fucking thing over halfway through. If it's a 2-disc set, you got to flip it fucking 3 times, and it's a pain, and it doesn't sound. It has a sound, but it doesn't sound as good as CDs, right? CDs were designed to be pretty much lossless. Like it's not actually lossless, but the losses are so high and so low in frequency that we can't hear it and it doesn't matter. And so CD is kind of like the perfect format for audio. And when I started to get into vinyl, and I started to like, at first it was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, look at this. And the other thing that was interesting, when I worked at disc makers, a lot of the other guys that were there had been there forever, and they'd been there since the vinyl days. And one of the things that they would talk about with the artwork is that CDs are a much shittier medium for album art, right? Like they were used to a great big area that you could cram artwork into to tell the story of the album and the band and all that shit. And then you took that and you shrunk it way the hell down to CDs, and it made life a lot more difficult for our graphic design team and whatever. And so like that was really cool at first, right? I'm like, look at this. The fucking artwork's all big and it's pretty and it's gorgeous, and then the fucking vinyl is all crazy colors, and like a couple months in, and at first there's also this like romanticism of like, I gotta get up and flip it over and clean this side too, and then clean the fucking stylus and all this. And then like after a few months, there was just a moment where I just didn't want to get up to flip it over, and I just kind of looked over and I was like, and now I get it. now I get exactly what my dad was saying. It is a fucking pain in the ass. Like, I just want to listen to this whole fucking album without getting up. But there is a cool kind of ritual to it. There is a cool like physical thing about it. It is very fun. I have a very small, I'd like to think tasteful sort of vinyl collection. I probably have like maybe 30, maybe 40 records. There's one of the things I will admit that it is kind of a pain in the ass, but I do love about vinyl is that you buy it completely differently. I buy it completely differently. You don't buy vinyl for a song. You buy it for an album. You figure out like, is this a good album that I want to listen to beginning to end? Because you can't, not you can't, but you shouldn't drop or pick the needle up in the middle of the record, because it leaves a mark. I mean, it's always leaving a mark, right? The vinyl material is kind of soft, and you're putting a stylus down that's very sharp, like a needle. That's why people call it a needle. And so like you're in it for at least one side, and that's cool, right? Like that is not the way that we operate. Spotify has destroyed that. It's all about like individual songs or like a band. And so I will absolutely admit I love that about vinyl, is that if you're on a budget, right, you'll never buy a record for just one song unless you really love that song, I guess. But it's cool. It's cool to be like, ooh, such and such band, I want to have one of their albums on vinyl. Which album is that going to be? Which album is like listenable versus like which album has that one song that I really love? That's super cool. Dave S says, how about Airplane? Same kind of thing. A little bit too on the nose, a little bit too sort of corny for me for whatever. For whatever reason, I don't know. FizzPV says, I can attest physical merch matters, and it also pays gas for the to the next gig. Yeah, indeed. Cole Powers says, Minidisc use ATRAC natively. MP3 versions were introduced later on, but it was not the original codec used for the Minidisc format. I did not know that. I thought MP3 was specifically designed, well, because Minidiscs were smaller, right? It wasn't like DVD where the laser was finer. And so like from CD to mini disc, it just had less storage. And so I thought that MP3 being compressed and being smaller that's interesting. That it didn't use MP3 originally. Good call. FizzPV says, fair enough, I'm better older than you, and Monty Python was always stupid for stupid's sake. That's a great description of it. It is totally stupid for stupid's sake. I actually kind of hate that I don't find some of this stuff to be as funny as I once did. I kind of attribute it to burnout a little bit. Yeah, you can only watch them. Maybe. Yeah. You can only watch a movie so many times before it gets a little bit stale, is what I was saying there. But man, I've watched some stuff an awful lot of times and it's not stale yet. I don't know. I don't like that I don't find Monty Python, Airplane, Spaceballs as funny as I once did. It feels like a failure. Uriel says, put a Creedence Clearwater Revival record on. You enjoy albums. Also, Tchaikovsky 1812 is great. I have the Creedence anthology best of. One of the things I don't like about vinyl is that it has encouraged me to buy best ofs, right? And that's not really an album. Like, it's cool because it's the best of, but it's not an album in the sense that like it's not telling a story beginning to end. You know what I mean? But I have the Creedence anthology or whatever the hell they call their best of, and it's just insanely good. My God, it's almost every single song is a complete hit. Although Creedence is famous for not having any #1 songs. Creedence has had like more #2 songs than anyone else, I think, but they've never had a song hit #1. It's like, what the fuck? Uriel says, I started to download dictionaries of artists, then I got interested and bought the collectibles. Gold Power says, correct, Minidisc had 340 megabytes of storage, and they did use a form of audio compression. It just wasn't MP3, which itself is short for MPEG Layer 3. I didn't know that either. Uriel says, no, it has to be in a row of Legacy. FizzPV says, the #1 for me would be the Blues Brothers. Yeah, Blues Brothers are good. That's a good choice. Okay. Away we go into Cineglide land. I am going to pull the props off, but I think I just put these prop nuts on loosely last night. I did indeed. All right, so let's pull these giant Gemfan 5052s off this thing. Again, the thought process of the Cineglide is to have a build with the FPV camera so far forward that there's no prop in view whatsoever, because that's what you need for live broadcast stuff. And so this is kind of like the FPV cycle frame that does that. And it's actually a pretty cool frame. By shifting all this stuff up here, you also get more space for a battery. But what I've kind of decided to do on this is a second battery on the bottom, and then just one of those little parallel 2-in-1 XT60 connectors if I want to do long range stuff or whatever for this. It makes a lot more sense to me to buy two 6S 1500 mAh batteries and run them like that to get 3000 mAh versus buying one massive 6S 3000 mAh battery, right? Having the two 1500 mAh batteries, I can just put one on, and then I can just run this at like a semi-normal weight, or I can put that little parallel connector and then just strap a second one. I'm just going to put a piece of grip on the bottom here, and then the Glide has a perfect little gap here where you can just run a battery strap right around, and just, bottom battery, top battery, away we go. That probably also helps a little bit with the CG. If you put a 6S 3000 mAh battery up here, it's probably going to be really top heavy. Although alternatively, putting a 1500 on the bottom is going to make it a little bit bottom heavy, but like a 6S 1500 on top is going to even it out, and it's going to be weighted kind of... Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter in terms of CG, but whatever. I would still rather have two 1500s than one gigantic 3000 that you can only use for one thing, right? Two 1500s you'll be able to do a lot more with them than one giant 3000. Hold on, let me pause here because I need to confirm that the camera will fit in here and will allow me to change the up tilt. So to do that on this frame, all you got to do is pop this little bottom piece off of the... I don't think you can get this Cineglide frame anymore, so I'm going to try my best not to be like, look how cool this is, guys! But just so that you can kind of see what I'm doing, there's a little tiny bottom plate here. Little piece in the bottom. That just pops off. That's just the bottom of where the camera goes. And so now if I remove these camera screws, I should be able to pop this out. But unfortunately, one of the weird things about this, there's a bunch of holes. The hole that, of course, works the best is kind of obstructed by these little standoffs here. So the next thing you have to do is just crack these loose. Oh, and I did this in the wrong order. Hopefully I can get these to let go. Yep, there we go. So you just have to loosen the screws on the top just to let these little standoffs here angle a little bit. Come on. Hoping I don't have to use the pliers on these standoffs again. Come on. I'm going to have to. I got to hold the standoff with the pliers. I should have cracked these top nuts loose when I still had that bottom plate on, but I forgot. Hold up. So let's get this driver on here. Oh man, I haven't had carbon fiber shards all over my desk in a while. Get on there, you son of a bitch! What's happening? Oh, I'm dumb. That's a 2.5 millimeter driver. This is a 2 millimeter nut. There we go. All right. Top nut cracked loose. Oh my god, it's still not wanting to spin. Come on, dude. Be cool, bro. That should be enough. I hate having to grab these aluminum knurled standoffs with pliers because it just mangles the shit out of them. But sometimes there's just no other way. I just try really hard to really clamp on with the pliers so that they don't spin, because that's what really rips up the standoff. Okay, so now I've got to crack these two guys loose. I was really hoping to fly this thing today with the Vista, but it has rained pretty much non-stop here in Georgia for the last like 2 weeks. I've been wanting to fly the 2S analog rig. There's a bunch of outside rigs that I've been wanting to fly, and it's just been ugly, ugly, ugly weather lately. All right, so Vista camera out of the mount. Now let's take the O3. Oh, I gotta pull these screws out of it. Hold on. And let's see. Euro says you use Loctite for this. Absolutely. All my working rigs. I mean, I try to use Loctite for kind of everything. Every screw that's not going into plastic. But freestyle rigs, I'm a lot less likely to use Loctite because they're just going to have to come apart anyway. Like, I'm just going to destroy them in pretty short order and have to pull them apart. So sometimes I'll skip the Loctite on the freestyle rigs. That was the little piece that covers up the MIPI popping off. All right, so where are the screw holes in this? Where are the screw holes in this O3 camera? They're kind of in the middle there. All right, so what I like to do is I'll just use the top screw hole. Oh, this fits in here better than the Vista camera. Hell yeah, we are good, I think. Hold on, I gotta come over here and try to see this. Hold on. If you're wondering, I move this mat forward when I work on big stuff. That's why it's like weirdly in between here. All right, so let's see. Where's the... I gotta try to find the mounting holes. I want to just throw one screw in here. There we go. There's the top mounting hole. Grab one of these little M1.5s. Drop it in there. And actually, no, I'm going to use a button head. The socket head screws are a little bit bigger. The button heads work better to clear this standoff. So drop that in. And woo! Shaky McShakes a lot. All right. I think that's going. Yeah, that's going. All right, cool. So looks like I'll need to use a bit of a shorter screw. But all we're doing right now is making sure that this is going to clear the bottom plate. And I am thrilled that it looks like the O3 camera is actually going to give me even more adjustability than the Vista did. The Vista is like a really blocky kind of camera. So the point where it contacts is down here on this flat spot, right? So it's this piece sits down here on the bottom, and it sits like that. And so if I get that snapped down, oh yeah, bro! That fits so much better than the Vista. Holy hell. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so what I do is I just crank these screws really tight. I crank these screws really, like, not super tight, but pretty tight. And then there's a whole bunch of friction on this. So it holds its angle, but then it's super easy to get it to just adjust it, like, on the fly. Look at that, man. I can go, like, mega up tilt. I mean, that would obviously bring this into view. But I wouldn't be really if I run this for live broadcast, I would only run this GoPro mount if I was going to carry the GoPro. If they asked me for some actual GoPro footage, it would take this whole shit off. If they didn't want that, I would probably put. So like the live broadcast setup for this would basically be the session mount. I would put the session TPU up here. Just because it doesn't weigh anything and it kind of makes it look better, and it's almost like an airbag. Like if I ever did hit something, the session would take some of the shock out of the collision. This is great though. I'm so happy that this camera fits in here. With how many things went wrong last night, I was like, yeah, the fat fucking chance this camera's gonna fit. There's no way in hell. Everything has it out to get me. But yeah, no, we're good. That is really, really, really good news. So I'm just gonna leave that all kind of like half-ass put together, and we are gonna dive into pulling the rest of this guy apart because we got to get the Vista out of here and swap it out with the O3 air unit. Hopefully that's not super difficult. Shouldn't be, but you never know. So yeah, that's really, really, really good news right there. That's what that is. Let's go here. I haven't worked on something big. I've been moving the I've been moving this down-facing camera around recently, and I've moved it down quite a bit here, and it's now like kind of too close. I'm like punching this thing to try to get the driver in here. Veritas Weasel's in the house. He says, I remember when Moses introduced the top 10 recorded on stone tablets. He said he'd play them on his CD player after the CD is invented. There we go. Good guy, that Moses. So I'm told. I wouldn't know. I've never read his book. It's not his book. I'm sure. I don't know anything about religion. I read all the other books. All right. Here we go. Top plate coming off. This is an older build, man. This build is probably like going on 3 years old now. This has been together for a while, and I have barely flown this. So this, I have the battery lead zip tied down here, which really makes this annoying, but I guess I can just sort of, I'm really tempted to just cut it, but I can just do that. That'll be fine. That's okay. What's happening down here? Oh, this Vista camera is freaking out. You know, the other thing I am gonna have to figure out is I think I'm gonna need a longer cable. Oh, that might be just. No, I don't think that's gonna be long enough. Oh my god! And it's like it looks like it's about a millimeter too short. So that's got to go on the bottom. So that's gonna be there. That's gonna be there. Yeah, that's like a millimeter too short. Fuck. That's actually a problem because. Oh no! Yeah. Okay. No. These are replaceable. I don't think I have a replacement O3 camera cable. God damn it! I didn't think about this. You know, I did think about this, but I didn't do anything about it. Anybody know the hot spot to get longer O3 cables and or the O3 cable is probably the same thing as the O4 cable. Long DJI O3 air unit cable. No, not those. This is what I need. So, Axis flying. Good on you. I do have some longer MIPI cables, but I have a funny feeling that they're not going to be the right ones for the O3. Hold on, let me take a really quick look. Ooh, El Chingon says O3 and O4 cables are not the same. Good call. I totally assumed that they were. But good to know that they aren't. Anybody know if the Vista and O3 cables are the same thing? Hang on. Taking a quick look. DJI bin. Wait a second. If the Vista... I will not have O3 specific cables, but if the Vista cable is the same, I'll just use this one that's in here right now. What am I saying? The I have a super long cable on this guy, so I guess I'll try that first. I'm skipping ahead though. I gotta get this shit. I gotta get this Vista out of here first, and that's gonna require some disassembly. So let's get going on that. Come on. Jesus, what is this held on here with? Oh my God. Oh, you know, I should probably get this onto elrs too while I'm in here. I should probably get this off of Crossfire. Shitters. Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to leave this on Crossfire. Crossfire is another thing that I'm trying to get away from, as are many folks. Holy cow, this... Oh, boy. This is really on here. There it goes. Come on, you bastard. Get off there. No, can't really take it off from that side. Ah, that's far enough. I'll be able to get it off. There we go. I would love to reuse this giant TrueRC antenna, but O3's got the wacky double antenna set up, so I don't know. I might save this for the 7-inch build. We'll see. Absolutely ridiculous to be taking this apart after having barely flown it, but I built this for a specific thing that didn't really happen, and yeah, it's most live broadcast stuff you're flying around people, and so having an open prop death machine is not usually a great idea. So yeah, and it is what it is. B-Mud Skipper says, hey, can you possibly do a 3D printed frame whoop? No. I think it would be cool to see you freestyle it. Go back. I mean, if you want to see that, you can see that, but I'll never do it again because they're terrible. If you go to my channel and search for R3D, a little search R, the letter R like Roger, 3, D like David. That was a company, Redshifters, who made 3D printed frames. They've made the best 3D printed whoop frames that I've ever seen, and they were still trash. Boy, did I go in hard. I did a bunch of builds. I did 1S builds, 2S builds, pusher builds, puller builds. I really went hard on the R3D Shifters frames. And yeah, they were just impossible. They don't isolate enough of the vibrations to not have them. You just can't tune them. You can't get a half decent tune on them. CMYK says, "Did you just touch my ass?" What? When did I say that? Nate Adams says, and then they just break. They just break on the layer lines. So yeah, 3D printed frames are. It's no good. Nate Adams says, fairly sure there's no version compatible, even if they look the same. Mads Tech tried them all. So they're not. Okay. Damn. Fresh says, moving away from CRSF. Yeah, man, for sure. CRSF is kind of old news. It fail-safes more often than regular old 2.4 gig ELRS. And then ELRS 900 just completely stomps it. Nomad is just kind of the end for Crossfire. With Nomad, you've got the ability to have significantly lower latency and significantly better range and performance. Crossfire was great way back when, but they haven't changed anything with it. They just let it stagnate. And when you do that in a world where everybody else is improving things, this is what happens. And so, yeah, I've been looking forward to moving away from Crossfire for a long time now. And I've just waited because I knew that eventually Express LRS would do a dual band setup, and it took them a long time to do it, but they've finally done it with Nomad, and it's just awesome. It's just so cool. For when you're using these things for work, the RF environments that you're in have a tendency to be kind of a disaster. And so Nomad having dual band is a really, really, really big deal. I've had gigs where Crossfire gave me like 200 feet of range. And there's nothing you can do about that. Like, it's locked in the 900 megahertz band. If there's a bunch of shit close to that same 900 megahertz band screaming very loudly, you're going to get horrible range and horrible performance and fail-safes and all kinds of other nonsense. And so, yeah, the days of Crossfire are well and truly over. I mean, it's better than FR Sky. It's better than some of the really ancient stuff. But boy, is ELRS so much better. There was a time that like I was sticking with Crossfire because it was like this known quantity, and ELRS was still kind of like new and untested. But those days are long gone, man. ELRS is like locked in. It's good to go. Most people are using it. Plenty of professional pilots are using it with no issues. And again, now with Nomad being dual band, it's a total no-brainer. But yeah, I mean, I've still got a whole bunch of builds on Crossfire, and it still does work most of the time. But yeah, the dual band Nomad shit is just the coolest. And like, you know, Nomad works with, like, if you have a rig that's just on regular old ELRS 2.4, Nomad works. If you have a rig that's on 900, it's so cool. What is going? Why are the screws spinning in the bottom of this? What's the deal with that? Can you not? Can you not just be spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning? I would love that. Oh, I don't have a nut on the bottom here. I have this. Oh, right. So I have this Vista. I didn't expect that. I have this Vista just pulled down into the base plate, and I've got heat transfer tape on the bottom of it in an attempt to keep the Vista really cool by dumping as much of its heat as possible into the carbon fiber and letting the carbon fiber frame bottom plate act as a bit of a heat sink. Right? There we go. Third one. Veritas Souza says, what happened to Fat Shark? Are they still around? They are indeed. They're still around. Not nearly as active as they once were. And they don't really have, like, I don't think they really have a product right now, which is kind of weird to say. But yeah, they're still around. They are still around. Their analog goggles are still some of the best ever, if you don't need DVR. Okay. Vista is unscrewed. And let me just be a little careful with this. Really nice True RC Singularity antenna. Okay, there we go. Vista camera's being a pain in the ass again. All right, so let's see here. Oh, wow, that is stuck down there. So the heat transfer tape is nowhere near as sticky as like VHB, but I've been pulling this thing down. I've had these screws nice and tight, and so this thing has been pulled down into that tape for a long time now, and it has like welded itself to it. That's kind of impressive. Let's just see if I can get this pried free. Man, the base plate is flexing. Ooh, buddy, this is stuck down. Holy cow. All right, hold on. Let's get it pried. There we go. There we go. A. Wow, I really didn't need these screws in it. I could have run it with just this heat transfer tape. Woo! Damn. Okay. There it comes. There it is. All right, so I've got, what's this extra what's this plug header that I have in here? Why is there just a plug header in here at random? Oh, that's right. I wired this thing up for GPS. I've got, yeah, this is the wire that I need for GPS in this. That's right. And then I just never actually put the GPS module on it or set it up or did anything. Okay, so if I'm gonna take Crossfire out of here, I'm gonna pull this antenna. Well, hold on, I don't need this. Let's put this away. Okay. All right, looks like I've got the Vista on a plug. That's pretty cool. So that is now free. But the camera cable, it looks like I've run under the ESC. So that's going to be a bit of a pain. And something is still hanging on. The tape is still kind of hanging on here. Come on. There it is. Okay. Tape is free. Here's the video antenna. That's fine. That's going to stay on this side because I think it's probably too long. Nope, there it is. So that's good. But then I've got this MIPI cable. Where is it going? Yeah, it's going under the ESC. Okay, so I guess I'll unplug it from this side here. Oh my God, we are out of time. Yo, it is 9 o'clock already. Yikes. Time flies when you're building 5-inch rigs. But I'll at least get this Vista out, and then we'll really quickly dry fit the O3 to see if I'm gonna scream and yell again because there's some weird issue with the VTX not fitting. There we go. So that's unplugged. Here's the Vista. That's what that heat transfer tape looks like after being smushed in there for ever. And so let's put this aside. All right. I am going to get this Crossfire out of here, but we're going to just worry about the O3 at this exact moment here. So let's see. All right. Yo, this is a long Vista cable. Holy hell. This is like a 12-inch long cable, yo. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get... I think I might have to lift the stack up a little bit. This is the problem with... I love running these cables under the ESC for it to be like nice and neat and tidy. But Jesus, when you have to come back in here and service it like this, sometimes it's real annoying. And like these MIPI cables are so fragile that you can't just like yank on them. You got to be super gentle. I've almost got it though. We're getting there. Almost there. I can see it through the bottom of the frame now. That's good. So I can just kind of move it here a little. Oh, yep, there it goes. There it goes. Almost, almost. There's the back of the connector. Here it goes. Ah, there it is. Look at how long, look at how long this fucking Vista cable is, yo. Jesus. Wow, that's ridiculous. But I don't think I can use that on the O3, which really sucks. Let me take a super quick look here. So this is the O3. Let me just throw little bit of magnification on, pop this Mippy off. It's the same style Mippy, but I'm going to assume there's like a different number of pins or something. It looks like it might be wider. Let me pop it off, and it'll be super easy to take a look since I have that other camera. And I have to take this off anyway. So here's the Vista Mippy. Moment of truth. Oh God, yeah, it's nowhere near the same. Shit. Yeah, look at that. That's a huge difference. Damn it. Oh, well, into a build bag this goes, because I'm going to have to find a nice long O3 specific cable. It looks like Axis Flying makes that one, though, so that should be pretty easy. Do I not have a... Where the hell? I have a tape measure in here. Where the fuck did it go? Well, yeah, I gotta measure this and then just get a little bit longer, because, yeah, once this is in here, once this guy is up there, so it's gonna mount pretty much exactly there. Yeah, it's not long enough. That is like exactly not quite long enough, because it's got to go up through the frame, and that's gonna take... that stinks. Damn, so close. All right, let's make sure that the O3 VTX is going to fit in here real quick, and then I'll let you guys go enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Go get drunk, would you? Okay. O3 air unit. Will it fit? So I've got a little cable going down to an LED in the bottom. Oh, yeah, buddy. Oh, easy game. Easy game. That looks good in there, too. Hold on. Let me make sure. Let me line the mounting holes up. Matter of fact, I'm going to throw a screw into it real fast. And screw into it. Just to make my life a little easier. Here we go. So there's one of the mounting holes. No, that's not a mounting hole. Where are the mounting holes at? There they are. Oh, there it is. There's one. Yep. Okay. And beautiful. Okay. So, uh-oh, why is it all fakakta like that? Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no. It's 25 by 25 mounting, and this frame is 20 by 20. I forgot all about that. Double-sided tape it is. Or the heat transfer tape. Yeah, okay. So I can't use the mounting holes. This is an older FPV Cycle frame, so it's just all 20 by 20. That's a bummer. I really hate the idea of double-sided taping these massive digital VTXs down, but man, everybody seems to do it. I swear to God, I'm the only one that does it. But yeah, this has plenty of room. This is going to be absolutely fine. I will either use the heat transfer tape to hold this down, or I'll probably use VHB because I want the strength of VHB, but it's not interfering with the cable that goes down to the LED. And there's plenty of room in the back for like the antennas and all that jazz. So yeah, this will have to just get taped down. And then same thing as I did before, I'll put the elrs receiver up on top here, and then there should be just enough clearance. I think these are 20 millimeter standoffs that I have on here. And that's got just the right amount of clearance there. Although this will get bumped up a little bit. Let me compare it to the Vista in thickness. Yeah, it's a little thicker. It's a little thicker than the Vista. So I will have a little bit less room, but it'll be fine. There's enough room in this thing to... I mean, if I have to, there's a spot up in the front here where I can put the receiver, or I could even stick it to the top of the flight controller. I'd rather not do that, though. I always try to leave the flight controller alone so that it can just kind of float on its grommets, because that's where the gyro lives. But yeah, this will fit, and that's good. But I'm gonna bail on Crossfire here, so I'm gonna pull this Crossfire Nano out. But first, I need to get a longer O3 cable, and I'll probably just buy the longest cable that's available. I'll buy at least one of the longest cables that's available. That's for sure. So there you have it, friends. That's how to tear apart a perfectly good working Cinesplorer and not have the parts that you need to put it back together. Story of my life. But, you know, this thing will be really cool. I'm actually really looking forward to flying this with just O3 on it. These big-ass motors, big-ass props. I think this will be like 550 grams with a big battery, these big motors, and then just the O3. And the footage from the O3 looks really good. Always has, always will. So this will be neat. I'm excited for this rig. This rig has just been like on the shelf, and like I could run the 5-inch. I could run 5-inch props with a big GoPro, or I could put a session on it, and like so I'd put the session on it, and then I'd put 5.5-inch props, and it'd be cool. But the footage from the session is nowhere near as good as the Hero. And it was always like this weird kind of thing where I really wouldn't, I wouldn't fly it much. But I think now with O3, because I'll be able to use it with goggles too, I'll actually fly the thing. So that is cool. I love that. I hate having rigs that just sit up there and don't get flown. And this has been one of the worst offenders of like sitting on the shelf, has a specific use, but the situation doesn't come up to use it. And it's driven me crazy for a while now. Because it's a gorgeous build. Like I spent lots of time getting everything perfect. It's all nice, and it's still spotlessly clean, right? Like I haven't flown it enough to even get it a little bit dirty, and that drives me insane. I at least want it to have dirt in the impossible to clean little crevices that I couldn't get to with my toothbrush and isopropyl when I crashed it into a mud pile because I was actually flying it, you know. And about does it for me. Have an excellent rest of your Friday night and a wonderful weekend. I'll see you guys on Sunday at 3 o'clock. Uriel says, hell yeah, I try, but it hurts in belly U, but I'm hanging on. Veritas Weasel says, how's Teddy doing? Is he around? Teddy is banned from the basement at the moment because he shit and pissed on the floor 2 days in a row. I believe it's because it's been raining and he doesn't like getting his paws wet because he's a prissy little bastard. And so, yeah, he is not welcome in this basement right now. I'm pissed, of course. But the big part of the reason that I'm not letting him in the basement is I want to isolate this as a behavior thing, not as a he has cancer thing, right? Like when dogs get sick, a lot of times they'll start shitting in the house and pissing in the house. And so, yeah, it's been 2 days and he hasn't shit and pissed in the rest of the house. So I'm pretty sure it's a behavior thing. But this is like the easiest way to kind of iron that out. And quite honestly, I just don't want to see his dumb little face right now because I'm super pissed that he disrespected the, you know, whatever. Love you guys. See you on Sunday at 3 o'clock. CiottiFPV.com to support me. If you support me, I'll support you. We can support each other. I'll keep doing this. Otherwise, I'll starve to death. The kids will die. The dog will die. You don't want that on your conscience, do you? Join my Patreon. If you're on the $3 a month tier, maybe go to the $5 a month tier, and then the dog can live. Here's some more of that, the 1.6-inch 2S04 rig. Blapping around in Denver, Colorado. Love you, bye!